All right, welcome back to the channel. This is our next quarantine build. This is the TAMIYA M2 Bradley. Really outstanding kit, especially considering its age. It's an older one. I believe it's from the early 90s. And it offers a lot of opportunity for fixing things up, for scratch building, but overall really a fantastic kit. I had a lot of fun doing this one. Always loved the box art. I believe they showed it from the rear here, and it just looked so cool to me. This kit does come with an interior, but I decided not to work with the interior. So let's see here. Some of the things I had to do with it was I had to add some shimmies here on the door to get it to fit just right. I made some taillight covers. These are much more accurate to the actual vehicle. You can see I added some bolts and other details on them. These flaps here are plastic. And I think that's it from the back here. For this hinge on this door, I had to make some adjustments and clean it up. Some other pieces are details that I added. This piece here is tie down. All of the tie downs on the skirts here are scratch built. And then this vent was scratch built. The top part of it was made out of foil, and then the sides are plastic. And this rail here as well was scratch built out of plastic. The mesh is not the mesh that comes in the kit. I went ahead and got some K&S mesh that much more accurately depicted what the vehicle had. It should be diamond shapes, and I believe in the kit it comes with square shapes. Okay. There's a I believe it's a flotation device of some sort. I believe that's correct. It goes all around the vehicle, and I made it out of paper up to here because it should be more of a fabric look. The front fenders here are made out of plastic. I used the kit tracks. They're your typical vinyl tracks. I wasn't yet interested in dealing with individual links, and I figured most of them were going to be covered up by, most of the tracks would be covered up by the side skirts anyhow, and I actually think they've turned out quite well. There is also an M3 Bradley by Tamiya, and I believe the only external difference between the M2 and the M3 are these gun ports here. They look a bit different. Another element that I scratch built was this rack here. And the rack that I created, this was I made one and it didn't quite come out right, and I made a second one. It came out much better, much more accurate to the actual vehicle. And it looks much better than the kit version. The ammo, these spots here, these little crates for the ammo, these were all scratch built. I think they were created out of 4 parts each. The back, which I drilled out or poked out holes with a punch set. And then the bottom portion, which also has holes. So you can see here. And then the 2 sides. And I made a couple of them and picked the best 3 out of maybe 5 that I made. I find that's the best way to go when you're scratch building, is make a couple of versions of it and then pick the one that you think looks the best. Chances are your second or third or fourth times are going to turn out better than your first. I also added some detail on the underside of the turret. There is an opening, and this is true to the actual vehicle. TAMIYA doesn't actually give, it's right about there. TAMIYA doesn't actually give any detail, but it should essentially be the side of the gun on the inside. I'm imagining that's so that they have easier access for repairs. I'm not entirely sure why it's open there. But I added some details in there and it looks better than having nothing there. I think that's just about it in terms of scratch build. I'm very proud with how the camouflage came out. I actually mixed my own green, started from the Tamiya NATO green, which didn't appear to be the right color, at least the color I was seeing in photos. So I decided to go with the photos. I believe I made it lighter. And then the brown, started with NATO brown, but it seemed far too red and a bit too dark. And then I went with NATO black, and I'm sure I lightened up even the NATO black just a bit. I also did some dry brushing, some very light highlights. I didn't want to overdo it. I think it's an effect that can be overdone. And I added some washes all throughout the vehicle. Oh yeah, another, as I'm looking at this model, it's been a couple months since I've seen it, but I really had to thin out this section here for the headlamps. It was awfully thick in the kit, and they should just be a sheet of metal. So I thinned them out quite a bit to get that detail right. And I believe the cover for the headlights themselves also was thinned out. The decals here are made up of numerals, individual numeral decals, and I painted on, I believe it was the buff color, the Tamiya buff color first, and then applied those individual decals. I wanted to match an actual vehicle that I saw in a wonderful Verlinden book that I had. You can see here too, I also used, I believe they're AFV Club periscope stickers, which give the effect that when you turn the sticker, they actually change color. And this is an effect that naturally occurs on those periscopes. It was my first time using them. Wouldn't be the last time I'd use them, but I was very excited to see how they came out. Thought it worked out great. For weathering, I added some streaks, so you can see along here. And those were done with just oils and a paintbrush. Very light. I also decided to just color and fade at the bottom here. And then I added some mud effect with some pastels. For pastels, I simply like to use just generic pastel chalk and grind it up myself, and then use a fixer. Either I'll use White Spirit or the AK fixer I've noticed works also. And then for dried mud effect, I layered a little bit more haphazardly, and then also splattered it in some cases. There's a bit of splatter there. And I thought it turned out pretty good. Really enjoyed this kit. I was able to focus a lot on construction, which is one of the things that I like to focus on a lot on these vehicles. And just kits in general. I find it's really important to get the seams filled. I think it's very important to get the pieces to be symmetrical, to fit properly, and then to focus on the paint job. I think so often so much attention is paid to the paint job and not enough opportunity for scratch building and actual construction. So this afforded me the opportunity for both, being both an older kit and also one with a pretty interesting NATO camo. And just some light weathering. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave some comments down below. Any constructive criticism or questions, whatever, go for it. I'm sure to respond. And thanks for subscribing and following. Have a good one.